So we will attempt May, June 24, paper 12.
Okay.
Right. So the first question, the diagram shows PPC. It indicates the combination of consumer good and capital good produced by an economy using all its available resources. What does point X indicate? Now, point X indicates scarcity or unattainable point. All right. Scarcity or unattainable point, which is outside your boundary. You cannot produce this level of output. A lower ratio, option A, a lower ratio of capital to consumer good is necessary to achieve economic growth. No, this is not what point X is telling us. Increase in level of unemployment. No. Insufficient factors of production are available. Scarcity point. Unlimited bonds,
Sir,
unlimited resources. Sorry?
your screen is stuck for me.
Why is it stuck? It's moving for me.
It's on the first page.
I think it's
Should
your
I
internet
retry?
issue. It's your internet issue.
Okay, wait, let me check.
Because it's working properly from my side.
Are you on page 2?
All right. Now moving towards question number 2. What is produced in a mixed economy but not in a free market economy? Something that is in mixed economic state but not in free market economy. So all three of these are in mixed economy and free market economy as well. But this is the only good that is available in mixed economy but not in a free market economy because public good is provided by government. Earth observation satellites designed to acquire information are close to the theoretical case of public good. In 2011, the World Meteorological Organization estimated that improving satellite observations would cost an extra $1 billion a year. What is a normative statement about Earth observation satellites? Now, the normative means opinion. All right. What is the normative statement from these four? The first one is estimated cost of improving satellite observation is $1 billion a year. It is a fact because it has already been given in the question that it will cost you around $1 billion. The information received from the satellite is non-rival. It is also a fact because it is because by consumption of one department, it will not reduce the consumption for others, right? So it is non-rivalrous in nature because the information is non-rivalrous when you spread it. The satellites are designed to acquire the best possible information on climate change. Yes, that is also a fact because we use satellites for multiple reasons, and climate change is also one of the reasons. The responsibility for the cost of Earth observation satellites should be shared by all government. Now there is this word should. When we talk about should becomes your opinion. So what is the answer? D. That we should share the cost. All the government should share the cost. All right. The should means it's a normative statement. It's an opinion. What is the opportunity cost of a virus to the healthcare service in a country? Now this question was discontinued. There must have been some problem in this question, so the answer is not available in the mark scheme, and it is written the question discounted, which means that it is discontinued. It's wrong question. Student will be awarded marks for such questions in exam. Now question number 5, the share of total incomes from profit in a country shows more variation over time than income from interest and rent wages. Interest, rent, and wages. What is the most likely reason for this? So it is saying that in a country, profit is more than the other rewards or factors of production. Now, what is the most likely reason for this? Interest rates are set by government. So, if interest rates are set by government, then only interest should have been low, na? Not the other rewards that the factors of production are getting. All right. So only interest should have been affected, not other rewards. Profit is what is left after interest, rent, and wages are subtracted from total income. Now, this is a correct point because profit is what you take home. Profit is something that is left after deducting all the expenses and all the costs from revenue. So this could be correct. Option C, rent is only the return to the factor, and so is always the smallest. It is not necessary. Most of the time, rent is very high. Sometimes rent is very high. Rent is more than wages. So this is not a possible scenario. Wages only change annually, not necessarily wages can change over time because it's a variable cost. It can always change. It is variable in nature. So what is the answer? Answer is B. Changes in the market for gasoline, petrol in Zimbabwe resulted in fuel shortages and long queues. Which combination of changes would have been certain to cause the situation? This is also a discontinued question. This is also a wrong question. All right. Question number 7. The diagram shows movement of supply for the product from S1 to S2. At price P, what happens to the PES of the product and producer surplus when the supply curve moves from S1 to S2? Kalen, you can see clearly that it is starting from origin, and I told you whenever a curve is starting from origin, it is always unitary elastic, right? It is always
Okay.
unitary elastic. It is always equals to 1. So it will not change. It will not change throughout. So the option A and B, in which it is saying that it will become more elastic, it is wrong because it will always stay perfect. It will always stay unitary elastic, right? Option C and D are the correct answers. Now, as for producer surplus, we have to judge if your producer surplus is rising or not. So this was your producer surplus at the initial supply curve, and this is your producer surplus at new supply curve. So you can clearly see that your producer surplus is rising. So what will be the answer? Your answer will be C.
B.
Everything clear?
Yeah.
Sorry, not C, D.
B right, yeah.
Right. 8, also a discontinued question. Was a very silly paper given by examiner. Now, 9. In Asia, instant noodles is an inferior good. In Asia, instant noodle is an inferior good because dried fruit is better quality substitute. All right. The diagram shows the demand for instant noodles. So, in Asia, instant noodles are used as snacks. All right. In light
Mm-hmm.
hunger. So, the case is saying that instant noodle is an inferior good, whereas dry fruits are a better substitute and could be normal good. But you can clearly see that the demand curve of instant noodles is rising and it is moving rightward. So this clearly means that maybe you are moving towards more inferior good, maybe your income level is falling. So only with one possibility can be your income level is falling. That is why your demand for inferior good is rising. Demand for inferior good is rising. All right. Now
Okay.
let's take a look at the options. A fall in the price of dried fruit. It is saying that dry fruit and noodles are substitutes. So if there is a fall in the price of dry fruit, demand for noodles should have fallen because people will move towards dry fruit. So demand should fall for instant noodles if there is a decrease in price of dried fruit. But in this case, your demand is rising. So it is not a correct answer. Rise in real income for inferior good, your income level should fall. That is when your demand for inferior good will rise. A rise in unemployment, yes, could be an option because due to unemployment, your income level will fall and you will not be able to afford normal goods. So you'll definitely move to inferior goods. So this is a correct answer. Let's look at option D. Successful advertising campaign by dry fruit producers. Why the dry fruit producers? Will they tell consumers to go and eat noodles? No, it is a wrong answer. So your answer is C. The diagram shows the impact of an increase in the price of a product from P1 to P2. Which area represents consumer surplus after the price change? So which area is representing consumer surplus after the price change? So this was your consumer surplus before the price change. This is your initial price level and this is a consumer surplus after price change. Now, which area represents the consumer surplus after price change? So this is the area which represents your consumer surplus, that is P2, R, and S. Answer is B.
Okay.
11. Which reason for the increase in demand for a smartphone is an example of joint demand? So it is talking about joint demand. A fall in its price. See, this is a basic law. This is not joint demand. Joint demand is when two commodities are rising at the same time. Like for example, if I say that if people buy mobile phone, they'll buy SIM card as well. So this is joint demand,
Yeah.
kind of. So indirectly, it's what do you say, complementary good. Option number B, a fall in the price of connecting to a network. So this could be a possible reason, form of complementary good, that people are buying mobile phones, they're buying smartphones so that they could enjoy the benefit of internet and network they are getting at a cheaper price. So this could be a possible answer. A fall in the price of part used to make smartphone. This is raw material. This is not joint demand. And this is linking with supply because you are using factors of production. You are using raw material to produce mobile phones. So this is the part of supply. A rise in the price of substitute? No, because it is saying that increase in demand. If there is a rise in the price of substitute, it will increase demand. Yes, but it is not necessary that it will lead to an increase in joint demand. All right. So
Okay,
the
sir.
answer is B. A market is in equilibrium. The government intervenes by creating a price floor below which the market price cannot fall. Which term describe the form of government intervention? I told you that that maximum price is known as price ceiling, and minimum price
Mm-hmm.
is known as price flooring. It is the second name of
Yeah.
minimum price. So the answer is B. What is an example of public good? What is public good? A new road linking a major city with a port. I told you earlier on that road is an example of quasi public good. It is not completely public good, it is quasi public. Free lunches provided to students at a school, again quasi public good. Wi-Fi provided for all citizens of a town, it is again quasi public good. Reason being that some majority of the time what happens is that when a lot of people are using internet, the quality of internet lags. So here we can say that there is the rivalrous behavior going on while using internet. State provision of a national defense system, army, police, navy, fighter jets, and they are all the example of public good. The diagram shows initial market equilibrium for an agricultural product of $6 and 800 units. How much will the government have to spend to increase the market price to $10? Now, government has to spend money to reach to a price level of 10. This means that they might be implementing minimum price. They might be implementing minimum price. All right. Now, when we talk about minimum price, what government does is that government promises farmers and all the producers that their income level will be secured. It will not be affected negatively. So government focuses on the concept of buffering of stock. Government buffers stock level and stores it in the with themselves. Now, before reaching the price level of 10, when we were operating at price level of 6, the revenue was 4800. All right. And after reaching the price level of 10, the quantity sold is 400. Previously the quantity sold was 800, now it is sold by 400 only. So what is the gap? The gap is of 400. There are 400 units that are in surplus. And what is the price level right now? $10. So 400 multiplied by 10, what will be the answer? Government has to buy, it is 4,000. Government have to
Yeah.
spend $4,000 on buffering of stock so that the price level can reach to $10. Do you understand?
Okay, sir.
Which policy will increase aggregate demand? Raising indirect taxes? No. Reducing budget surplus? Yes. Because budget surplus is the difference between government spending and tax revenue. And by budget surplus, what I mean is that government spending is less than tax revenue. We are earning more tax and we are spending less. So this statement means that previously your surplus was of 100 million and now your surplus is of only 50 million, which means that you have spent extra 50 million in the country. So when you spend more, your aggregate demand will rise. Correct answer. Removing domestic subsidies? No, it will not increase aggregate demand. Removing import quotas? No, it will increase imports, which will reduce aggregate demand. So the answer is, all right. The table gives the value of price index of an economy in 2 years. What can be concluded about the period? Now, The question is saying that we have price index of an economy in 2 years. What can be concluded about the period? First option is nominal income doubled. Now you see this is CPI given in front of us. We cannot compare income from CPI. All right, we cannot compare it. Real income doubled. Again, the problem is that real income is falling. First of all, the real income is falling. Why is it falling? Because your CPI is increasing. Your CPI is increasing. So your real income should fall, not double. The cost of living doubled. Yes, this is correct answer. Why? Because this pencil in year one used to cost around $10. Now the same pencil is costing me around $20 because the CPI is doubling in rate. So the
Yeah.
price of this pencil will double. So this could be correct. The standard of living doubled? No, the standard of living fell. Answer is C. What causes a rise in cost push inflation? A fall in the rate of income tax? No, because if there is a fall in income tax, this will lead to demand pull inflation. All right, this will lead to demand pull. Rise in the rate of income tax, this will cause AD to fall, and it's a contractionary fiscal policy. Depreciation of exchange rate could be correct. Reason being that your value of currency is falling, which will make imports expensive. Imported raw material expensive, which will lead to cost push inflation. So there's a chance. Appreciation of exchange rate, no, because this will make your imports cheaper, your raw material cheaper, and this will not lead to cost push inflation. Answer is C. Which change affecting an economy's labor force will cause an increase in economic growth in the short run? Now the question is, which change affecting the economy's labor force will cause an increase in economic growth in the short run? So we have to go for economic growth in the short run. An increase in students entering university, this will result in economic growth, but only in the long run. Because, and what do we have to look for? We have to look for short run cases. University students will boost economy. Yes, it is correct, but in the long run only. An increase in birth rate, again, I will not ask an infant to go to a factory and make shoes, right? So this will also help in long run. An increase in the immigration of skilled worker, yes, short run case, short run increase in potential. An increase in school leaving age, this is also this will reduce your economic growth for the time being because it's a long run policy. So answer is C. Which factor explains the difference between GDP and GNI? GDP is gross domestic product, GNI is gross national income. And I told you that in GNI, we also consider net income from abroad and money going out of the economy. We deduct that income. So the first option is foreign investment in the domestic automobile industry. It will affect both GDP and GNI. Revenue received from exporting companies will affect both GDP and GNI. Revenue received from exporting consumer good, again it will affect both. Salaries remitted by those working abroad by their to their home, remittances. For example, I bought a property in Dubai and I am earning rental income every year, every month, so that is included in my GNI. It is not included in my GDP. This is a difference, net income from abroad. What is true about government's macroeconomic objectives? Economic growth ensures more even distribution of income, not at all. Not at all. Increasing output ensures that more workers are employed, not at all, because we can use capital instead of labor as well. We can go for machines as well. Choosing between macroeconomic objectives requires normative decisions. It requires normative. Normative means opinions. Different economists sit together and they come to a conclusion that our main priority right now is correcting the balance of trade deficit. Then our objective should be to reduce unemployment. Then our objective should be to reduce inflation. I always told you that the four macroeconomic objectives of government, four or five economic objectives, these are the macro objectives, but they are not in specific order. It depends upon economic condition, it depends upon economic state, which one is more crucial at that moment. All right. So it depends on normative decisions. It is based on opinions. A stable rate of inflation means zero inflation is required, not at all. The original equilibrium is at point X. All right. Government decreases money supply. What is the new equilibrium? If government will reduce money supply, what will happen is interest rate will rise. And once interest rate rises, your saving rise, your consumption falls, and your investment falls as well, which will lead to a decrease in aggregate demand. So your aggregate demand will shift leftwards like this, and you'll move to option D. Do you understand?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
How does the government use its central bank to promote an expansionary monetary policy? By reducing money supply. Finish. Now, see, increasing interest rate for commercial bank? No, because we are going for expansionary policy. Increasing interest rate, again increasing? No. Restricting bank credit for consumer durables? No. Increasing issue of notes and coins in circulation. Money supply will increase leading to a fall in interest rate. This is expansionary monetary policy. Which combination of problems would be most likely to cause a country's government to reduce taxation and lower interest rate? So you are reducing your taxes and you are decreasing your interest rate, which means that you have to increase your aggregate demand. You're aiming for an increase in aggregate demand. All right. Now the question is, which combination of problems would cause a government to reduce direct taxes and to reduce interest rate? The first one is demand pull inflation and a balance of payment current account deficit. Now, during demand pull inflation, if I use expansionary policy, I'm using expansionary policies here. I'm using expansionary policies here. So if at demand pull inflation, I am using expansionary policy, this will lead to a further increase in aggregate demand, which might result in inflation. So during this demand pull inflation, I cannot use expansionary policies. Option C, high unemployment. Yes, it is correct. Option D, high unemployment. Yes, it is correct, because whenever there's high unemployment, you need to increase your aggregate demand, so your unemployment level falls, right? So you will try to increase your aggregate demand. The second one is low level of investment and a balance of payment deficit. Now you are reducing your interest rate so that people can invest more. This is a direct effect that results from a decrease in interest. So your answer will be D. What would be the best policy for a country to reduce balance of payment deficit? You need to reduce balance of payment deficit. Which one is the best policy? An increase in interest rate. Now, if you want to increase your interest rate, if you increase your interest rate, what will happen is people will start to save more and spend less. All right. And you have to reduce balance of payment deficit. Now, if people are saving more and spending less, this means their import might fall as well, right? This means that your import will fall as well. Once your import
Mhm.
falls, this will lead to a current account surplus, which will further lead to balance of payment surplus. So your deficit will start to fall. So this could be correct. Option B, an increase in exchange rate. An increase in exchange rate means that your export is getting more expensive now, which will lead to a further decrease in exports. So your balance of trade deficit will increase, which is not
Yeah.
what we want to do here. A reduction in direct tax will lead to more imports. Imports will rise. And once import rises, this will lead to, again, balance of trade deficit and balance of payment problems. A reduction in subsidies to domestic industries. A reduction in subsidies to domestic industry. So if you reduce your subsidies, again, this will decrease your exports. And once your export falls, this will lead to balance of payment deficit. So the answer is A. A government wants to protect its textile industry from imports. Which policy is likely to have the least impact on the import of textile? So we have to look for a policy which will not reduce the level of imports. The first option is ban on import of textile. Yes, it will reduce your imports. Sales tax on textiles sold in the country. No, it will not affect the import. It will not reduce the import. It will, on the other hand, increase. It might increase imports. Tariff on the import of textile. Yes, this will reduce. All the textiles sold in the country are required to meet minimum quality standard. Yes, your supply level will fall. And once your supply falls, your export will fall as well. So, sorry. Textiles sold in the country are required to meet minimum quality standard. Sorry. When businesses will have to meet a minimum standard requirement, which means that local business will focus on quality now. So instead of asking other countries for goods and services, instead of importing goods and services, we will improve our quality ourselves, and the consumers might switch to locally manufactured goods. So the answer here is B. A major European economy announced that the primary income account deficit of its balance of payment changed from 20 billion to 50 million. What would have contributed to this change? What is primary income? Primary income, which means net income. All right, net income. 26. An increase in the value of imported medical supplies. This affects your trade in good section, import side of trade in good section. An increase in investment dividends paid to foreigners, because dividends, interest income, and interest from loan, interest saving, all of these lie in primary income. So an increase in investment dividend, which means that Pakistan is paying dividend to many people who are living abroad. So once money is flown out of the economy, this will reduce primary income of Pakistan. So this is one of the problems that, yes, this could be one of the reasons. A reduction in the value of export of manufactured good, this will affect trade, balance of trade. Reduction in expenditure by visiting tourists. This is trade in service. This is also balance of trade, trade in service. So the answer is B. The diagram shows the amounts of cotton and butter that can be produced in country X and Y with a given quantity of resources. What can be concluded from the diagram? All right, country X has absolute advantage in the production of cotton. No. Country Y has absolute advantage in both of them, cotton and butter. So country X has no form of absolute advantage. Country X has comparative advantage, country Y has comparative advantage. There are no gains from trade between two countries. Let's calculate comparative advantage. All right, so we are going to take ratios of cotton is to butter and then butter is to cotton. All right, here I'm using country X and country cotton is to butter, butter is to cotton. Here I'm using country Y. All right, let me use my calculator. Let's calculate cotton is to butter first. So cotton is to butter means that the ratio will be, this is cotton, right? This is cotton. So the ratio will be 190 over 300. And butter over cotton means 300 over 190. So the ratio is 190 over 300. 0.63 is to 1, right? And 300 over 190. 1.6 is to 1. As per country Y, cotton is to butter. 200 over 500 and then 500 over 200. 200 over 500. 0.4 is to 1 and 500 over 200. 2.5 is to 1. Now, let's take a look at the options. So if we talk about comparative advantage, country Y has comparative advantage in cotton, all right, and country X has comparative advantage in butter. Now let's take a look at the options. Country X has a comparative advantage in the production of butter. Yes, could be correct. Wow, could be need, it is correct. Country Y has comparative advantage in both goods. No, country Y has comparative advantage only in cotton, not in both goods. Now, as for last question, there are no gains from trade between two countries. You see, Kaylin, that one country has comparative advantage in butter, the other one has comparative advantage in cotton, which means that trading is possible and they will both benefit from this trade. So the option that there are no gains from this trade is completely wrong. So the answer is B. What is indicated by an economy's terms of trade? Export price over import price. Simple. So a degree of dependence on import, no. International competitiveness, no. The purchasing power of its exports relative to imports, yes, this is the correct answer. 29. What will cause an increase in demand for the US dollars? We have to increase demand for US dollars. A dividend paid from US firm to foreign shareholders? No, this will not increase demand. This will not increase demand for US dollars. Foreign firms buying US firms, yes, this might increase demand for US dollar because they'll have to pay in USD then. Foreigners who live in US sending money home to their relatives, no, this will increase supply of dollar. This will increase supply of dollar. The US government wanting to hold reserves of foreign currency, no, this will again increase supply of dollar because they'll have to give dollars in order to buy foreign currency. So the answer is B. What is not included in the current account of the balance of payment? International aid, yes, it is entered into the section of net transfer or secondary income. Trade in good is there, trade in service is there. Now, what is not there? Foreign direct investment, FDI. FDI has a separate section of investment account, right? So this is how the foreign direct investment is recorded. Everything clear?
Yes, sir.